So for 2024, British Superbike is going to introduce a separate class that will run alongside in the same race as the normal British Superbike Championship, and that's called BSB Pathway. So what is BSB Pathway and what's the specification going to be? So let's quickly talk about that. So the idea of BSB Pathway for 2024 is basically to introduce a stepping stone or a closer stepping stone from 1000cc Superstock to a full-fat British Superbike. So the idea of the Pathway bike is that it will sit somewhere in the middle and make that transition to a full-fat Superbike a little bit easier, and it also means that it gives teams the opportunity to run in the prestigious British Superbike class, but at a more price competitive lower price point basically. So it also has the side effect of bulking out the British Superbike grids a little bit, so they're not necessarily in any way lacking, but it will certainly bulk them out a little bit more, especially as we've lost the two Raceway Yamaha bikes and the CAMS Yamaha bikes, and there is a question mark over the PBM Ducatis for obvious reasons. But potentially we're going to be four bikes down, four full-fat Superbikes down, so having BSB Pathway, as I say, has the added side effect of bulking that class out a little bit. Let's get on to what the actual specification of a BSB Pathway bike is going to be. So these have been tested in the last couple of rounds of the 2023 Championship, and they were also tested at the Alton Park round as well. And there's going to be a little bit of assumed knowledge in this video, so I'm going to assume that you understand the basic specs of a stocker and the basic specs of a full-fat Superbike, so I'll run through what the spec is going to be for the Pathway bike. So Pathway bike, if we assume that you start with a British 1000cc Superstock bike, the things you can now change to make it a Pathway bike are you can add quick release facilities to the swing arm, which you can't have in Superstock. You can change the brake calipers and the brake master cylinder, which you cannot change in Superstock. The engine must remain pretty much the same spec as the Superstock bike. And the most important change is that you have to run the Motec control ECU. That is the same as the British one stipulated for British super bikes. So in British Superstock, you can run a kit ECU from the manufacturer of your motorcycle. So if you run a Honda Fireblade, you can run an HRC kit ECU, which means you can run anti-wheelie, traction control, and a host of other bits and pieces. With the Motec control ECU, you can't have anti-wheelie, you can't have traction control, you can't have all those sorts of rider aids that you are allowed, strangely, in British Superstock. So in layman's terms, what you pretty much end up with, save for the minor details, is a British Superstock spec bike. So it's a far cheaper build and far cheaper to maintain throughout the year. You need maybe one or two engine rebuilds compared to far more for a Superbike engine. And it's a far lower cost of entry because you're not having to fork out for posh, very, very posh suspension, mainly forks are the expensive end, because obviously you can change shocks in Superstock, and like posh wheels, posh swing arms and stuff. You're not having to fork out for those, so you can go racing at a British Superbike level at a far cheaper price point. As I say, and the electronics and the way that you ride the bike due to that control ECU is then more similar to how it would be on a full fat Superbike. I know this is a little bit rambly, but as I say, in short terms, the bike is the same as the stocker, but you have to run the Motec control ECU. You can run different master cylinder, different brake calipers, and you can also, as I say, run quick release in the rear if you want to. So it's a little bit of a halfway house between British Superbike and British Superstock 1000. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this class. Who do you think the champion will be? Who do you think will turn up to race it? Let me know what you reckon down below. Do you think this is a good idea, bad idea from MSV? As I say, let me know what you think. I'm going to try and do some more YouTube videos now. I will go into, if you follow me on TikTok, you'll notice that I'm not there anymore and the account seems to have vanished, so I'll talk about that if people want me to. Let me know in the comments down below if you do.